The Galactic Council was the most powerful force in the known universe. Its members came from hundreds of advanced alien races. They lived among stars, moved planets, and controlled galaxies. Inside the Grand Hall of Stars, their voices echoed like thunder as they laughed together. At the center of the room floated a large glowing map of the Milky Way galaxy. A small blue dot blinked near the edge. It was Earth.1, tall alien with green skin and long arms pointed at the dot, and spoke with pride. This is the human world. This little planet with metal toys. They still use fuel engines and fire. Weapons. What can they possibly do? Another alien, short with glowing eyes, chuckled and said, I once watched one of their broadcasts. They still argue on screens. They don't even have full mind links. The laughter grew louder. Think they are ready for space. Let them try, a third voice said. Let them come. We will show them what real power looks like. The council had spoken. Earth was not a threat. It was a joke, but not all were laughing. In the back of the hall, one ambassador remained silent. He was small, with dull blue skin and quiet eyes. His name was Chiron, and unlike the others, he had visited Earth long ago. What he saw there had never left his mind. He had seen determination, he had seen unity, and deep inside Earth's cold mountains, he had seen something even the council didn't know about. As the council continued its jokes, Chiron turned and walked out without a word. Far away, on the other side of the galaxy, Earth was quiet, but it was not asleep. Beneath a mountain range hidden from the sky, a giant facility was alive with activity. Lights blinked. Engineers moved quickly. A voice echoed through speakers. All systems ready. Reactor stable. Final countdown in progress. In a deep underground chamber, a ship rested. It did not look like the ships of other worlds. It was darker, sleeker, made from metals that didn't shine. Its surface seemed to pull light into itself. It had no windows, no engines visible from the outside. It looked like it belonged to something far older and far smarter than what the galaxy knew. This was Project Silencer. Only a few people on Earth knew about it. Even fewer had seen it. It was built not for war, but for warning. It was meant to show the galaxy that Earth was no longer watching. It was ready to act. Inside the ship, Captain Ara stood alone on the command deck. She looked calm, but her heart carried the weight of history. Behind her, a soft voice spoke. We are ready. Captain Ara nodded. Open the gate. Above Earth, in orbit, space bent slightly. A quiet pulse moved outward, like a breath no one could hear. In less than a second, the ship vanished. Across the stars, satellites from many alien nations picked up something strange. A ripple, a signal they couldn't understand. Then silence. At the next council meeting, the mood had changed just a little. We detected something, said an officer from the Zarnian Empire. It came from Earth. And then, nothing. Another failed test. Someone laughed. Perhaps they finally learned to make noise in space. The room chuckled again, but not as strongly as before. Ambassador Chiron returned to his seat and said quietly, it was not a test, it was a launch. The hall fell quiet for a second, then loud laughter returned, trying to cover the moment. But something had changed. The stars were not as peaceful as they were before. A few trade routes near Earth were suddenly empty. A small mining colony near Saturn stopped sending messages. Ships sent to check did not return. And Project Silencer, it said nothing. It sent no signals. It moved without light. Its mission had started. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but a new chapter had begun. One written not in fire, but in silence, and the last ones laughing would be the first to understand why. Deep in the void between stars, where no light reached and no sound could travel, something moved. It did not blink. It did not shine. It simply passed through space like a whisper, too quiet to notice, too fast to stop. The ship called Silencer had left Earth only days ago, but it was already far beyond the known charts. Every jump it made confused the sensors of nearby stations. Ships that came close to its path turned away without knowing why. Something about it made even machines feel uneasy. Inside the ship, everything was calm. Captain Ara stood at the center of the control deck, her eyes fixed on the glowing patterns before her. She was not alone. A small team of Earth's best minds worked in silence around her. Engineers, scientists, observers, each of them had trained for years, but now, even they felt the weight of the mission pressing down like gravity. "Jump complete," said the voice of the ship's navigator. "We are near the Dravari border." The Dravari were one of the oldest spacefaring civilizations. Their ships were large, their technology impressive. For centuries, they had claimed the stars around their empire, and they had been the loudest to mock Earth during the Council. Meetings era didn't forget that. But her mission was not revenge. It was something deeper. Earth had watched the galaxy for years. It had listened to the Council's laughter. Now, it had chosen to answer, but not with speeches. "Send the quiet ping," she ordered. A silent signal left silencer. It wasn't loud, but it was clear. It didn't carry threats or demands, just coordinates and the symbol of Earth. At a nearby outpost, Dravari officers noticed the signal. One of them frowned and said, "Earth, that strange blue planet." The signal confused their systems. It didn't follow any known protocol, but it was enough to trigger a response. Within hours, a small fleet of Dravari patrol ships moved toward the source. They didn't expect anything unusual. After all, Earth was not known for surprises. As the ships approached the signal's location, their sensors began to blink. Strange readings, energy levels far beyond what Earth's level of tech should produce. They paused, then they saw it. A single ship, not moving, not speaking, just waiting. "Is this a trap?" one of the commanders asked. No answer came. The silencer simply floated in place. The Dravari tried to scan it. Their systems froze. They tried to send a message. No reply. One pilot moved closer. The ship didn't move. It didn't react. It simply watched. The Dravari hesitated. Something felt wrong. But curiosity pushed them forward. One ship moved into position for a closer scan. Inside silencer, Ara gave a simple nod. The outer hull of the Earth ship shifted. Not weapons, not shields. Just a wave of light. Soft.com. Control. The Dravari ship shut down. No smoke, no fire, just nothing. The rest of the fleet pulled back. Systems restarted, but slowly. Messages were sent back to command, filled with confusion and unease. Ra stood quietly. Her voice was calm. "Leave this system." Silencer jumped again, vanishing like a thought. Back on the Dravari homeworld, reports caused unease in the high chambers. This was not the behavior of a weak species. This was planning, precision, control. A message was sent to the Council. "Earth has developed technology beyond prediction. Their ship moves like it understands space itself." The Council debated again. Some said it was luck. Others began to worry. And still, silencer moved. Across 3 more systems, its quiet path continued. In each one, it gave a signal, not a warning, a presence. Ships sent to observe often returned with strange reports, as if they returned at all. And yet, no battles happened, no attacks, just silence. People across the galaxy began to talk. Rumors spread. Some believed Earth had made a deal with ancient powers. Others thought it had found something hidden beneath its own oceans. The truth was simpler. Earth had been quiet for a reason. It had learned in silence. And now, it was speaking in the same way. At the edge of known space, a message played. Once more, this time across open frequencies. It was the same simple line. "We are here. Watch closely." And with that, the galaxy started to listen closer than ever before. Asterisk stars twinkled gently across the vast emptiness of space, unaware of the tension building between worlds. In the silence of the void, questions began to spread faster than ships could travel. What was the Earth doing? What was that strange vessel? And why did powerful fleets avoid it without being touched? Across the galaxy, silence was no longer normal. It was unsettling. The Galactic Council had always been a place of control, rules, and balance. But now, its members whispered behind closed doors. Their voices, once proud and commanding, were careful. The story of Earth's strange ship Silencer had reached every chamber, every leader, though no official reports confirmed anything dangerous. The rumors alone had created shadows in their minds. "They haven't attacked anyone," one leader said. "But they haven't spoken either," replied another. A few still believed Earth was bluffing, that it had created one impressive ship and was using it to play games. To them, Earth was trying to look powerful while hiding weakness, and they wanted to prove it. Among those voices was the Helari Dominion, a proud star empire, known for its discipline and numbers. Their fleets were massive, their generals were confident. They had never lost to a younger species, and they had no interest in being questioned by one now. A Helari commander named Vesh took it personally. He had laughed at Earth in the council many times, but now, people were no longer laughing. Some even listened when Earth's name was spoken. That he couldn't accept. So he made a choice. Without waiting for full approval, Vesh sent a strike fleet, not to destroy, just to surround the Earth ship, to show control, to remind the galaxy who was in charge. The mission was simple: locate the silencer, corner it, and scan it. If it responded, fine. If not, they would hold it in place and force communication. There were no plans for damage, only to make a point. Within 2 days the fleet found it. Silencer was still, floating between two suns in a quiet sector, away from any known colonies. It made no movement as the Helari ships surrounded it. Inside Silencer, the crew stayed calm. Captain Era looked at the displays. 20 ships, positioned in a circle. Their weapons weren't active, but their presence was clear. "They're scanning us," said one of her officers. "Let them," Ara replied. "Should we send a message?" "No," she said. "Not yet." Outside, the Helari ships sent wave after wave of scans. Their computers struggled to understand what they were seeing. The ship didn't match any known model. Its energy source seemed hidden. Its surface rejected most forms of data. Vesh watched from his command ship, still silent. "Just like before," he said. "Fine. If they want silence, we'll speak." He opened a communication line. "This is Commander Vesh of the Dominion," he said. "You are now surrounded. Respond with your identity and purpose." Silence. He repeated the message. Still no reply. Inside Silencer, the crew watched quietly. "They're getting impatient," said the communication officer. Ara nodded, prepared the response. Outside, Vesh gave his final call. "If you do not respond, we will move you." Just as the fleet was about to close in, Silencer sent a single pulse. Not a weapon, not a signal, just a wave of data. Every ship in the Helari fleet suddenly paused. Their screens flashed. Their engines paused for less than a second. And then, everything returned to normal. But something had changed. Every ship had received a message. It was short. "We hear you." No signature, no coordinates. Just 3 words. But in those words, there was something deeper. A quiet warning. A calm reminder. Earth was not afraid. And Earth was not interested in games. Vesh stared at the message. He couldn't explain what he felt, but it wasn't victory. He ordered the fleet to return. "Tell the Council," he said, his voice softer now. Earth's ship did not need weapons. Back at the Council, news of the event spread fast. The silence was now louder than any explosion. A ship that didn't attack. A message that felt like thunder without sound. One council member whispered, "They're not trying to destroy anything. They're trying to teach us something." Another replied, "Or maybe remind us of something we forgot." Far away, Silencer continued its journey. It still didn't speak much, but now, the galaxy was finally listening. Deep in the spiral arms of the galaxy, stars continued their quiet dance, unaware of the storm growing between civilizations. Across distant worlds, silence had become something new, not peaceful, but powerful. It wasn't the silence of emptiness. It was the silence before something important. The kind of silence that made leaders nervous and made empires pause. Earth's ship, the Silencer, had not spoken much. It had not fought. It had not chased or demanded. And yet, its path across space left trails of confusion, fear, and quiet respect. Systems it passed through became still. Patrols were pulled back. Stations reduced activity. No one wanted to test the silence. And still, Silencer moved forward. Inside the ship, Captain Ara stood at the center of the command deck. Around her, the crew worked without panic, without rush. Every movement was practiced, calm, controlled. "We've crossed into the neutral zones," the navigator reported. Ara nodded. "Send the standard presence signal, then continue as planned." A soft pulse of light traveled through space, carrying a single message: Earth is present. On the planets nearby, that signal caused different reactions. In one system, a science station shut down for repairs. In another, a merchant fleet turned around and rerouted without question. On a far-off planet, a group of high-ranking officials held an emergency meeting in a quiet room. No cameras, no public records, only nervous discussion. "They've done nothing hostile," one said. "But everywhere they go, fear follows," another replied. A third leaned forward. And the strange thing is, they haven't made demands, not once. No terms, no messages of power. They just move. It wasn't a show of control. It was the absence of it. Earth wasn't trying to control the galaxy. It was reminding it that silence is often the last step before a sound too big to ignore. But not everyone was ready to accept that. In the shadowy sectors of the galaxy, there were groups who didn't belong to any council, secret alliances, private armies, rich traders who thought power could be bought. These groups had watched the rise of Earth's influence with growing discomfort. To them, Silencer was not a mystery. It was a threat to their hidden balance. And so, one of these groups decided to send a message back. A small team of advanced drones was launched from an unmarked base. Their mission: intercept the Earth ship, observe it from close range, and test its reactions. The drones were fast, smart, invisible to most sensors. They moved without sound and used advanced cloaking systems. They reached the outer edge of Silencer's current path and waited. Inside the Earth ship, alarms didn't ring. No sirens, no flashing lights, just a quiet alert on one of the screens. "We've detected shadow movement," said the defense officer. 3, no, 5 small objects. No broadcast signal, no ID. Captain Ara didn't look surprised. "Passive or active?" "Passive. They're watching us." Ara paused. Then she simply said, "Ignore them. They'll reveal more if they think we're unaware." The crew didn't panic. They didn't raise shields or change course. The ship continued forward, undisturbed. But while Silencer stayed quiet, it was not blind. The drones followed for hours. Then one got too close. It tried to send a scan pulse. Not a weapon, just a strong wave to read internal systems. In less than a second, the drone shut off. No noise, no damage. It just stopped. The other drones immediately pulled back, confused. Systems glitched. Their AI loops froze and restarted. But data was missing. The mission was over before it began. Back at the base that sent them, the operators stared at the blank screens. "Did they attack?" one asked. "No." Another said, "They just saw us." The report was sent to their leaders, but even they couldn't explain what had happened. All they knew was this: the Earth ship did not fight. It didn't need to. Its silence had answers of its own. Back in the council, debates turned into long pauses. A few powerful members began to ask questions out loud. Why has Earth never asked for anything? Why haven't they spoken publicly? Are they warning us or protecting us from something else? And then someone asked what no one wanted to hear. What if Silencer isn't Earth's most powerful ship? What if it's just? The first bat thought sent a chill through the room. And far beyond, alone in the quiet dark, Silencer continued. It passed planets and systems with no announcement. It left no marks, no trail stopped, but everywhere it went, the stars seemed just a little quieter. Asterisk, in the deep cold of space, where light takes years to travel and sound never reaches, mysteries grow quietly, and Earth had now become the biggest mystery of them all. The ship called Silencer had moved across 12 sectors without resistance. It did not demand control, did not answer challenges, and yet, it changed everything. Entire fleets adjusted their routes. Research outposts delayed their launches. Some even called it a myth, thinking no single ship could cause such a shift across the stars. But others wanted answers. On a quiet moon far from the major trade routes, a group of scholars and former intelligence officers gathered in secret. They called themselves the Watchers. They had been tracking Earth since its early days in space, back when it was still sending small satellites into orbit and exploring nearby planets with probes. They had laughed once, too, like everyone else, but now they were watching with new eyes. One of the younger Watchers, a tall, quiet alien named Velin, had made a discovery. For days he had stayed inside the ancient archives, a cold place of forgotten data, ignored by most. What he found there was not something new, but something very old. He called the others to see. "This," Velin said, "is from a time before Earth was ever mentioned in Council records." The image on the screen showed a shattered star system, dead planets, a central sun missing from the sky. "There was a war here," he continued, "not long ago in cosmic time, but no one talks about it." One of the senior Watchers shook his head. "That system was marked as a natural collapse." Velin looked straight at him. "It wasn't. It was erased." The data matched a signal pattern weak, but familiar. It was almost the same signal Silencer had sent just weeks ago. A quiet gasp filled the room. The Watchers realized Earth hadn't just built something powerful. It had built it with experience. Earth wasn't discovering the galaxy for the first time. It was returning to it. Back at the Galactic Council, the same question was being whispered in different corners. What is Earth hiding? Old council members, those who had seen the rise of many civilizations, began digging through their own records. Not public ones, but private. Old archives locked for generations. And the patterns started to appear. Strange signals near Earth centuries ago. Unknown objects found drifting through deep space, always leading back to the same region. One counselor even remembered a species that once ruled 3 spiral arms, until they vanished after reaching Earth's edge. No war was ever reported, no battles recorded. Just silence, and now, Earth had a ship with the same name. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, Captain Ara looked out at a dying star. Her ship floated calmly in its orbit, watching the final breaths of a sun that had given life for billions of years. A young officer approached. "Captain, we've received a private message. It's not official. It's from a council historian. They are asking if Earth is part of the Forgotten War." Ara didn't answer right away. She looked at the glowing star, shrinking slowly in the distance. Then she said, softly, "We were never part of it. We were the ones left after it." The officer was quiet. He didn't ask more. Inside Silencer's core, a quiet system remained hidden. It didn't light up, it didn't hum, but it held something old. A record not written in words, but in memory. Earth's memory, a memory of a time when civilizations had reached too far, too fast. A time when Earth had not yet become the silent one, but had learned why silence was necessary. The ship was not just a ship. It was a reminder, not a threat, not a warning, a memory. And now, that memory was moving through the galaxy again, not to cause fear, but to test one question. Has the galaxy learned from the past, or is it about to repeat it? Far from Silencer's position in hidden star systems and cold moon bases, those who watched and listened began to share one quiet message. Earth remembers. And suddenly, the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like history returning. The stars had never truly spoken. But now, they felt as if they were holding their breath. Across the galaxy, something had changed. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't a movement. It was a feeling, quiet but powerful, that something was reaching its final moment. In councils, on ships, in deep stations, orbiting forgotten planets, people and beings of all kinds waited for something they could not describe. Silencer had stopped moving. It now floated in a silent region of space where no major trade paths crossed, where even explorers rarely visited. There was no light nearby, only the soft glow of distant stars and the quiet hum of time itself. Inside the ship, Captain Ara stood alone in the observation chamber. She was calm, but not still. Her hands moved slowly over the glass table in front of her, reviewing the last responses from across the stars. In the last 6 days, 52 civilizations had sent messages. Some were apologies, others were cautious questions. A few asked for help, but most of them said one thing in different words. "We understand." The silence Earth had chosen was not a wall, it was a message, and now, finally, others had started to listen. Ara tapped the final message. It came directly from the Galactic Council, signed by every major voice. It didn't offer defense or denial. It simply asked, "What do you want us to remember?" She stood there for a while, letting those words echo in her mind. Elsewhere in the ship, the crew moved with quiet purpose. They knew their mission was almost complete. They had not come to threaten, not to take, but to wake something in the minds of those who had forgotten what Earth had once known too well. The galaxy had seen peace, yes, but not understanding. It had grown proud, loud, careless. It had laughed when it should have listened, but that was changing now. At the edge of this quiet sector, hundreds of ships began to gather. They were not battle fleets. They carried no banners. Some were small, carrying only a handful of thinkers. Others were diplomatic vessels. A few were simple observers. They had come not to fight, but to witness. Inside Silencer, the bridge lights dimmed. Ara returned to her seat. "Is the broadcast ready?" she asked. "Yes, Captain," replied the communications officer. "All systems green." Ara nodded once. "Begin." Across the stars, screens blinked to life. Old radios, advanced displays, neural links and crystal projectors all carried the same message. It wasn't long. There was no speech, no list of demands, no celebration. It was a single recording. It showed Earth, its oceans, clouds, cities. Then it showed something else, images no one had ever seen before. Ruins floating in space. Once great ships turned to drifting pieces. Entire systems with stars gone cold. Planets torn apart. But there were no weapons in the images. No enemies. Only silence. Then came the final words, spoken clearly in a calm, human voice. When noise filled the stars, we chose silence. Not because we were weak, but because we remembered. This is what we carry. Not fear, not pride, just memory. Choose wisely. The message ended. Across the galaxy, no one spoke for a long time. On 1,000 worlds, screens dimmed slowly. In the council chambers, no arguments began. No votes were called. Not right away. And in the shadowed reaches of space, silence powered down its main engines. Not because it had been stopped, but because it had arrived. It had done its part. It had reminded them. The stars would continue to shine. Trade would continue. Voices would rise again. But now, in the quiet spaces between, there would be memory. And with memory, there could be something better. Not control. Not fear. Understanding. The ship remained still for a time, then turned away, back toward the distant path of Earth. And as it moved, the silence it left behind was no longer empty. It was full of meaning. And this time, the galaxy listened.